Vanderbilt beat Alabama a year ago in a massive upset for the ages. But can they do it again? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We're going to catch up with Jimmy Stein of Locked On Bama. We'll get his thoughts on the Tide and Ty Simpson, how they're rolling right now. Big win over Georgia. And we'll also catch up with Cam Parker covering the Texas Longhorns as they get into their SEC play at Florida. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download FanDuel today. All right, let's jump into it as we go around the conference, and we got to start over at Vanderbilt. We don't normally start with Vanderbilt, but man, they have earned some respect as Clark Lee talking about Vanderbilt and their decades-long losing streak in Tuscaloosa. Clark Lee off to a tremendous start here at 5-0 with Vanderbilt this season and Diego Pavia. And, of course, the Commodores upset last year, number one Alabama in Nashville, snapping a 23-game losing streak to the Tide dating back to 1984. It was also Vandy's first ever win over a top-ranked opponent. That win in 1984 was in Tuscaloosa. And now with the Commodores off to their best start since 2008, ranked 16th in the country, they will look to snap a 9-game losing streak at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Clark Lee on Tuesday saying, I don't know that history. We're creating our own history here. That's how we see it. That really is the spirit of this group. Lee also said they weren't overlooking the program's overall history, but would rather focus on the future, a future that is what to come. He said the investment over time, the painstaking suffering and sacrifice has given way to a program that feels solid and feels whole. Again, a lot of folks are rooting for Vanderbilt. It's a great story. Clark Lee saying at the end of the day, we're going to play this game. We're going to play our best football and come what may. It's just, this is the teeth of our schedule. We have all our long-term goals within reach. We just got to keep trying to play that optimal game that allows us to have results. It is wild to think. I mean, Missouri and Vanderbilt are still very much in play to play for an SEC title in Atlanta. Of course, Ole Miss sitting right there as well. We'll see. Long season to go. How about on the flip side with Alabama? Ty Simpson having one of his best games as a starter so far in his short career as a starter at Alabama. And he's talking about this game against Vanderbilt, saying, look, I wasn't playing, but I was on the team last year, so I felt how it was. The mentality in the locker room this week is we remember what happened last year and what are we going to do about it? Even though it's not about last year, it's about us. We're not going to make the same mistake again. You know what I mean? He went on to say they're not the same team as last year, neither are we. They're better and we're better in some ways. This is a top 25 matchup with College GameDay coming here. It's a really, really good Vanderbilt team, and it could be one of the biggest games of the year. We need to come in with the mentality like we've had in the last couple of games with a chip on our shoulder. Like it's Alabama versus the world. Look, I don't know if it'll necessarily be that. I'm sure Diego Pavia might feel like it's him against the world, as has been his mentality since he's been there in Nashville. But by the way, Pavia taking another honor this week. The Walter Camp football social media account celebrating Pavia and his performance so far last week against Utah State with 5 touchdowns, just 1 interception, led the team in rushing as well with 79 rushing yards. So it's going to be a fun one, man. Vanderbilt and Alabama will kick off 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern on Saturday afternoon. And like we said, College GameDay in Tuscaloosa for this one. Vanderbilt has come a long way. In other news, how about over at Arkansas, Rhett Lashley? He's not at Arkansas, but obviously in the aftermath of Sam Pittman's firing, Rhett Lashley at SMU was asked about, could he be particularly linked to the Arkansas job? On Tuesday, he told On3's Billy Embody that he is, quote, fully committed to what SMU is building in the ACC. We're present and we're happy here. We're fully committed to what we are building here. There's still plenty of time to go in this season. So look, Bobby Petrino is the interim. He will be able to prove first what he can do, but don't take anybody's word for this, man. I mean, again, ever since we heard Nick Saban say, I don't know how many times I got to tell you, I'm not going to be the Alabama head coach. Look, everybody's word is as good as as what it is in the moment and can change at any given time. All right, how about over at Florida? They're getting ready for their big game, taking on the Texas Longhorns, and Florida defensive back Aaron Gates scheduled to undergo shoulder surgery, according to Swamp 24/7. Another blow to the Gators' start to the season, 3 straight losses. According to the report, the sophomore nickel corner will have surgery on that labrum in his left shoulder. He suffered it during Florida's loss at Miami back on September 20th. He was seen wearing a sling later that night. Gates did not return to the game after sustaining the injury. Tuesday's report on Gates's impending surgery comes in contrast to what Billy Napier said on Monday when he reported that the team had received good news regarding his injury. Gates has 7 tackles for them solo in 4 games this season. Fought his way back into Florida's secondary rotation during the offseason after suffering a torn ACL in his right knee in a game against Ole Miss last November. So just hate that for guys that sustain one injury one season and then another one the next and just keep having setbacks like that. How about over at Oklahoma, Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator, reportedly flattered by his name getting thrown around as head coach speculation. Going to draw some serious interest throughout this offseason as his offense looking pretty darn good so far with John Mateer, who obviously going to miss a couple of games having with his injury. But Arbuckle telling the media, I'm flattered that someone would say that about me, meaning interested in him as head coach, but none of that stuff registers in my head at all. I have a responsibility to this university and these kids. So there you go. Speaking of Ole Miss just a second ago, of course, they're off to their nice start, undefeated start. And Cole Kublik and Roman Harper are revealing their top 5 SEC teams on the SEC network this week. And both of them had the Ole Miss Rebels at the top of their lists. But the rest of the list's kind of a little bit different. Cole Kublik has Texas A&M at 2, Bama at 3, Oklahoma at 4, and Missouri at 5. While Roman Harper had Bama at 2, Georgia at 3, Mizzou at 4, and Vanderbilt at 5. I think that just kind of sums up how wide open this thing is in the SEC. It really is like, again, go up to anybody, go, who's the best team in the SEC right now? You can make a case for anybody. I mean, Oklahoma's looked good. Alabama's been red hot. Georgia, yeah, they just had the loss to Bama, but you want to count out Georgia before the season's over. Mizzou's been rolling. Vanderbilt, I mean, you can make a case for just about anybody right now. So anybody not named Florida. And then lastly, your SEC Media Days. We found out and they normally announce this the year prior at Media Days where the next year will be. Well, I guess they were waiting to make the announcement. Brett McMurphy of On3 on Tuesday revealing that 2026 SEC Media Days will be held in Tampa, Florida from July 20th through the 23rd. So Tampa going to get a big time event here from the SEC, and the city will also be hosting the 2027 Florida-Georgia game and the 2028 college football playoff national championship game at Raymond James Stadium where the Tampa Bay Bucks play. So it's a little bit of movement here. Of course, SEC Media Days were forever in Hoover, Alabama, and been moving around. Been to Atlanta now 3 times, including last year. Went to Nashville once, went to Dallas once, and now going to head to Tampa. So will be interesting to see if there'll be some other cities, like I've heard New Orleans thrown around, St. Louis is possibility. So we will see what happens there. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Jimmy Stein going to stop by. They got a big one coming up against Vandy. Are they scared of the Commodores? We'll discuss that coming up next. Hey, but first, this episode is presented to you by our friends over at Mazda, and Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. They've got more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. That's as of August of this year, from footwork to breath work. Athletes, they sweat all the details. Mazda, they bring the same intention to how they craft every model of car. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. Love the smell of a new car, by the way. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to the intuitive controls. With the all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And just like the football players we talk about, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's your 401k, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your cell phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. They do all the heavy lifting. You can link up all your accounts in just minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally, feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Go use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off, 50, your first year at Monarch Money, MONARCH, money.com with code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Check them out today. We're along here, Locked On SEC, and not the sexiest of slate of games this week in the SEC, but the game that's become the headliner, I feel like, it's still almost like a punchline. You can't say it without laughing, and Jimmy Stein, host of Locked On Bama, joins us now to talk about it. And Jimmy, it is the destination where College Game Day is headed to, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, as the number 16 undefeated Vanderbilt Commodores will play at number 10 Alabama. It still just doesn't feel real to be talking about this as a great football matchup, yet here we are.
Yeah, and it's kind of, Alabama being the host of this game day, but I think the story is Vanderbilt, because I think it's just the second time that they've ever appeared on game day, hosted one time again in an Auburn game, but only their second appearance on game day. Game day is pretty much at Tuscaloosa an annual stop for those guys, but usually, of course, it's LSU, it's Auburn, it's Tennessee, it's some non-conference thing. But boy, Vanderbilt, that is a big shock. But I think there's a lot of interest because Vanderbilt upset Alabama a year ago. Diego Pavia is a huge star, and not just in this game, but in college football, period. And Vanderbilt's an interesting story, and I think ESPN and their cameras would like to be there if Vanderbilt pulls it off again.
Before we get too deep into the game, I do want to rewind to a week ago, Jimmy, because we did our squad show and everybody was picking Alabama at Georgia, and I think a good bit of us thought Georgia was going to hold serve at home. We didn't know what to expect from Alabama. We talked about Kalen DeBoer and his struggles on the road so far as head coach at Alabama, but man, were they the better team on Saturday, and really proved it. An incredible first half. Ryan Grubb dialed up all the right plays. The defense played hard. I mean, how surprised were you with how that game played out on Saturday?
Well, I was a little surprised, even though I picked Alabama to win by 3. I mean, I felt like Alabama would win, not simply because I predicted that Alabama will play their best game of the year, but, Georgia has some deficiencies. This isn't 2021 Georgia. It's not 2022 Georgia. This is Georgia with some holes facing a highly motivated Alabama team. Think back to week 1 and Alabama's disaster in Tallahassee. Florida State knew they could erase an entire 2-10 football season in a 60-minute game against Alabama. Alabama showed up in Athens to erase what happened in Tallahassee. It's a motivated football team against a flawed football team, just flawed enough for Alabama to squeak by in what was really a close game. I have no doubt that if the two lined up again later this year, it could go either way. These are two pretty evenly matched teams, I think, when you look at the rosters.
Yeah, Kirby, next time, take the points, my man. Stop trying to do too much. Although I've watched that replay so many times. Cash Jones, I mean, a shoestring tackle, basically. If he keeps his feet up, he's going in the end zone. So it was just crazy how many close plays there were. What'd you make of Ty Simpson, though, Jimmy? I mean, he's getting a lot of love, and rightfully so this week. He got crushed week 1 in the loss to Florida State, but man, no, I don't know if anybody's played better than him collectively the last 3 weeks.
I like to say about Ty is he's such a unique quarterback in this sense, Chris. He is built to be a game manager, and I hate that term. I hate it. But I say it because he's a coach's son. He was born into a quarterback home. Dad's a quarterback. Dad played quarterback. Dad was a QB coach. Now dad's a head coach. And Ty grew up in that environment. So he's sort of born to be this coach's son game manager. But what makes him special is put all that aside, just look at the physical skill set. He's got a big arm. He's accurate. He's got great feet. He's a good athlete. He'll make plays with his legs that I think will really surprise people as the season moves on. He runs really well. So he's just kind of a unique combo. Some quarterbacks are game manager types. Some quarterbacks are just playmakers. Ty is this rare guy who's both. All he needed was experience. Now that he's got some, he's getting better every week.
Hey, Stetson Bennett started as a game manager, and look where that got him. So I'm sure Alabama fans will take that all day. What do you make of Ryan Williams and the drops? Because it's I don't know, man. He took the league by storm last year and just a little inconsistent this year so far.
Well, I don't want to minimize it or act like it's not a thing, because it's a thing. There's no doubt this is a thing. But I also think when you're talking about a game-changing player or a player capable of making game-changing plays, sometimes you have to take the bad with the good. I think he's gonna have drops, and guess what? When the game's on the line and you need a big play, he's as likely to make it as any player in the country. This is still a game-wrecking, game-changing guy that the other team has to account for on every snap. And yeah, he's going to drop a couple, but you're also going to see him make plays. He made a third down catch later in the game that wasn't a spectacular play, but for all the talk about how he's got alligator arms, he drops, he doesn't want to get hit, he took a massive pop on a third down play and held on to the ball, making a play. I think I would still say, Chris, this weekend against Vanderbilt, Ryan Williams is a player to watch. I think he's a good bet for a couple of huge plays against Vanderbilt on Saturday.
Yeah, I know exactly what play you're talking about, and I was like, how in the hell did he hang on to that? Because he took a pop. How much will this team miss? Obviously, Latham got hurt last week at practice. He's out, and Rousseau going down with injury this week. He's going to be out. So how much are they going to miss those guys?
Yeah, really quite a bit. This is overall a very healthy football team. I mean, you got 85 guys and they're sort of down 3 or 4. That's kind of remarkable with the season 1/3 over. So overall, it's a healthy team. The bad luck of it is, as usual, the injuries pile up at one position. Quay Rousseau was your starter at outside linebacker. Alabama calls that Wolf in the Kane Womack scheme. So your lead Wolf is Quay Rousseau. He's out. The number 2 Wolf was a fifth-year senior, Jamarian Latham. Now he's out. Now you're starting a kid named Yanze Pierre. He played about 40, 50 snaps in Athens. Comes into fall camp as the third guy. Everyone's always been high on Yanze from the start. Great pass rusher. As a matter of fact, he might even be a superior pass rusher to Rousseau and Latham, but struggles a little bit in setting the edge in the run game, struggles a little bit in coverage. So it'll be interesting to see how Alabama accounts for that, because the opponents are going to find that pretty quick.
All right, let's get into this one, Jimmy. I mean, last year, Diego Pavia was a problem. Eli Stowers and company, they kept moving the chains. Bama couldn't get him off the field, frankly. So I got to think mission objective number 1 is to get Pavia off the field.
No doubt. I mean, third downs that Alabama excelled at a week ago in Athens themselves, but they were on the other end of that in Nashville last year. Vanderbilt was 12 of 18 on third down. I think they converted every fourth down. They tried as well. That's how Alabama couldn't get them off the field. They completely controlled the clock. I see it somewhat happening again, to be honest. I know Alabama's worked on this a lot. In Tallahassee, they were still sort of a mess defending the athletic quarterback who ran a lot of RPOs and zone reads. I have not seen any evidence that Alabama is going to just suddenly show up and be really good against that type scheme. I think you're going to see some more of what you saw last season in Nashville. I'm expecting to see Vanderbilt control the clock, have extended drives that end in scores. I think it can happen again. But what Alabama can do to change the outcome is eliminate or reduce the errors they made in that game in Nashville. That was really why Vanderbilt was able to come on top a lot of self-induced errors, 2 turnovers, multiple penalties on third down that extended some of those drives. And I think if Alabama, who's played very clean football in 2025, if they play another clean game, I think they win it. But I do think we'll see some Vanderbilt success on offense.
Yeah, they're averaging 49 points a game so far. And I get it. They played a couple cupcakes in there, but we're talking about Vanderbilt, Jimmy. It's why they scored 70 in a game. Like, we're not used to this. This is the most productive output they've ever had on offense, it feels like. But on the flip side, I guess maybe the saving grace is the defense has given up some yards, has given up some points. So maybe Alabama looks at that and says, hey, look, if this gets into a shootout, we feel pretty good about our offense.
I think what we're going to see is very similar to a year ago. Vanderbilt on extended long drives that result in points. Alabama with quick strike ability. Alabama will score just as many or more points, but they're likely to do it in quick strike fashion. Both, particularly in the pass game, Alabama's improved at wide receiver based on where they were a year ago. Ryan Williams can make a big play. Jeremy Bernard can make a big play. The freshman, Lazir Brooks, he can make a big play. They throw the ball to the backs and the tight ends. They can make a big play. I see Alabama scoring quite a bit in this game, just doing it differently than Vanderbilt does.
He is Jimmy Stein, Locked On Bama. Jimmy, looking forward to seeing this one. And, man, I keep saying it. It's like Bama, one week I doubt them. They look like world beaters. This week I'm back on board. Suddenly they may have 2 losses coming out of September. So we'll see.
Well, they beat Georgia a year ago, fell to Vanderbilt the next week. You get to replay that again. This time there's no sneaking up on Alabama. There's no excuse of, well, we're coming off a big win and playing a team we took too lightly. There's none of that. You can sense from the coaches' press conferences on Monday, media speaking to the players Tuesday in Tuscaloosa, you can tell there's an edge to this. They know this is a big game, and I think they respect the heck out of Pavia. I think Alabama's geared up to play a top 25 opponent with game day in town.
He is Jimmy Stein, Locked On Bama, one of the best shirts I've ever seen for those watching on video. More Locked On SEC coming your way next. More Jimmy Stein in just a second, but the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. And right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. You're going to love so much about FanDuel. I love just browsing the sports book. I do that for long time, just kind of searching through all the different props and betting lines and future bets. Of course, they got all the action of the games happening this week. So many different ways to play. You can build parlays, you can try the player props, you can follow the live lines during games. Just makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into all the stats, FanDuel, they're going to make the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. If you never signed up before, take advantage of that great offer over at FanDuel.com. Hey, this episode also brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of your home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that has been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. There are some great businesses in your neighborhood, particularly in SEC country. You got 3 Pairs in Tuscaloosa. You got Dragon Star Hobbies in Athens, Bingo Deli and Pub in Gainesville, Point City Donuts in Starkville. These are all places that already use Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square will see you in the neighborhood.
All right, how are we feeling about Arch Manning?
All right, that's Kevin Durant with us here on the show. He is
Arch SEC play. We're going to show these boys
Yes.
that you
Yes.
are for sure the number 1 pick in the draft.
There it is. That's a mic drop right there.
Dropping the mic.
That was Kevin Durant over at Rockets Media Day. I happen to be over there in Houston, and squeezed in a question at the very end. Got former Longhorn great Kevin Durant's thoughts on Arch Manning. He says, Arch about to show these boys in the SEC why he's going to be the number one pick. And nobody better to join us now to talk all about it is our buddy Cameron Parker from 1300 The Zone there in Austin, part of the Longhorn Radio Network. And Cam, the Longhorns coming off their bye week, they've had some ups and some downs. What have you made of this team so far as they get ready to head into SEC play?
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Ups and downs, right? There was so much preseason hype around this program, around Arch Manning. I mean, first off, preseason number one team in the country. Second off, Arch, Heisman favorite. Maybe that was a little bit premature on both fronts, especially after the first month. And, looking at it now, having, the first month behind us, it's like, okay, you know what? Texas had to replace 4 offensive linemen, losing a couple to the draft. You lose your top 2 wideouts, your number 1 tight end, who all 3 led the team in production and receiving yards. And you have a brand new starting running back coming in who had missed last season, and Arch Manning, number 16, his first year as a true starter. So there was not a lot of continuity, not a lot of production returning from last year's team. And I think we've kind of seen that offensively. And for Arch itself, sure, he has the last name Manning, but this was a kid that I'm not sure he was ready for the hype right out of the gates, right? He played a couple games last season, he looked good, but now his entire offseason, he's the guy. I mean, right after Texas lost to Ohio State, it felt like ESPN, all these networks were already talking about, okay, now it's Arch's team. And that was the day after Texas lost the game in the college football playoff semifinal. And he's had to kind of deal with the hype and maybe put a little bit too much pressure on himself. And I think we saw that at Ohio State. We saw that at San Jose State. We saw that with UTEP, where you're kind of scratching your head like, okay, we saw him make these throws last season. His throws are coming up 5 yards short. He seemed to be very skittish in the pocket. His footwork's not great. His mechanics aren't great. I mean, all these quarterback gurus are, kind of giving their thoughts in. And it's like, okay, there's no way that this guy who was a consensus 5-star recruit coming out of high school just doesn't know how to play the quarterback position. So what we saw against Sam Houston, and yeah, if you want to tell me, hey, it's Sam Houston, one of the worst defenses in college football, that's fine. But we did kind of see that swagger come back for him. And I think that's what makes him tick. That gives him confidence. So the key thing in SEC play, Chris, is, when he goes up against these Florida defenses, Oklahoma's, Georgia's, where you can be a great quarterback, but they're going to throw some disguises at you that you're just not going to understand. It's going to freak you out. You're going to struggle. Can he kind of bounce back from that? And so I think that's what he has to learn how to deal with. And if Arch Manning, I said this at the beginning of the year, I thought Texas had a pretty average quarterback play last season for Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn's a great quarterback. I just don't think he was ever truly healthy in that offense last season. And they were possibly a goal line touchdown away from reaching the national championship. If Texas can get average play out of Arch Manning going forward, they're a college football playoff team. I don't think we can discuss this. I don't think there's anyone so far through the first couple weeks of the season where you're like, yeah, that's the team. That's number one. There's 2, there's 3, there's 4. So Texas can just get average play out of Arch and let him continue to develop and get that confidence. I think Texas will be just fine. But Saturday's a big litmus test for Arch Manning.
Yeah, I think you're right. This thing does feel still wide open. My biggest question, Cam, is I don't know how good Texas is. Like, again, the barometer test of week 1 against Ohio State, again, we didn't know Ohio State had so many new pieces and a new quarterback. Defense looked great, but the last 3 games have been against terrible teams. So this is one where, look, I know Florida's struggling offensively, but the defense has been pretty good. So I think this will kind of give us a gauge on really how good this Texas team is. I expect the defense to give DJ Lagway fits, like everybody's been giving DJ Lagway fits. But to your point, yeah, very curious to see what Arch does against this defense and on the road as well. By the way, I looked it up. Texas not played in Gainesville since 1940. So good to see they're finally getting back around to this one.
I think it's the fourth or fifth time they played a regular season game in the state of Florida. I think the last time it was against Central Florida in like 2007 or 2003. So they have not had to deal with the Florida humidity too much. They played some bowl games in the Sunshine State, but it's a big break for Texas that this is a 2:30 kickoff because getting a taste of the swamp at night, I think would have been an experience that Texas probably has not encountered, because Michigan last season was a big noon kickoff. Probably have to go back to Alabama 3 years ago when we went down and took down a top 5 Crimson Tide team that was still coached by Nick Saban. Certainly atmosphere that Arch Manning hasn't played in yet. So they get a little bit of a break there. And as we've seen with Florida, their offense has been struggling. Dallas Wilson, I think, is coming back. There's been a lot of hype about him, the freshman wideout who went down with, I believe, a lower leg injury in camp. But hey, if your offense is hopeful that a freshman wideout is going to save you, then it probably tells you there's some bigger issues on that Florida, especially the defensive line. I think Texas defensively can handle the Florida offensive line and really force DJ Lagway. I mean, LSU made him throw the football. What happened? He threw 5 interceptions in that game. But even then, like, will we really know how good this team is after this week? Oklahoma probably won't have John Mateer. Kentucky, I mean, shoot, now out of this 4-game stretch, there's 5 games where Texas plays 4 straight on the road and then comes back for Vanderbilt before a bye week against Georgia. The most maybe meaningful game will be down in Starkville. Who would have thought? And of course, that could change the next 2-3 weeks, because I think every week we've gone in thinking, okay, this is the team that beat in the SEC. And it's kind of changed. You know, I was really high on Georgia this past week, and Alabama looked great against them. I know they didn't score a single point in the second half, but Georgia struggled as well. So maybe it's Mississippi State where we learn a lot about this Texas team, but I think what Steve Sarkisian is looking for is just continue to see this team, especially the offense, kind of just develop and get better by increments.
Yeah, it's a great point. And yes, I think most people are going to expect Texas to win at Florida. And with John Mateer out, yes, most people will be picking Texas to win Red River. But both those teams, good defenses. And we know Brent Venables and Oklahoma's defense has been good. That's why I say a lot of this is on Arch. How much has he developed? And these are 2 big challenges for him. But a quarterback's best friend is a good run game. What's the latest on all? I know all the running backs. We went for running backs banged up last year. Trey Wisner emerged as the guy. And now this year they've got running backs banged up. So where are they health-wise there?
Yeah, Texas hasn't had a healthy running back room since they opened up against Ohio State, and even then an asterisk because C.J. Baxter, who missed all of last season with a lower body injury, came back, and I don't think he was 100%, and then he got hurt week 2, week 3, and Trey Wisner's been out the last 3 weeks. But I think what Sark saw was, okay, we probably don't need our entire running back room to be able to beat San Jose State, to beat UTEP, certainly to beat Sam Houston. So we've seen some of the younger guys come in, like Jarrett Gibson, like a true freshman, James Simon, who have performed well. And, we've kind of seen Baxter and Wisner on the sidelines. So they look fine. And I think, honestly, if Texas was playing in the SEC title game or college football playoff game a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I think we probably would have seen Trey Wisner or Cedric Baxter, CJ Baxter play in those games. But considering the opponent, I think Sark was like, okay, let's just make sure our running back room is healthy. Because remember, last season, Texas was plagued by injuries at that spot. I mean, they had a transfer running back from SMU come in about beginning of the season. That's how depleted they were at that position. So I think Sark realizing, hey, it could be a 16-game season this year. Let's just try and go in healthy. But they will have, I believe, we'll find out tomorrow, Wednesday, when they officially release the SEC injury report. I do expect to see both Trey Wisner and CJ Baxter. And hey, the running game looked pretty good against Ohio State with Baxter and with Wisner. So, could that be a big help for young Arch Manning coming in, getting the ground game going? Because I think right now, if you're a defensive coordinator, you're probably more inclined to make Arch beat you than the Texas rushing attack, right? So it's definitely a big get for Sark to be able to get Trey Wisner back healthy, and CJ Baxter healthy. And I would not be surprised if they are both ready to go against Florida on Saturday.
Yeah, I would just tell Arch if he's going to stand over a defender, don't do it against Florida because you might get spit on. So that might be a thing.
Or you get your shoe thrown at you, right?
That's true. Well, Florida defenders have done a lot of weird things over the years. He is Cameron Parker. Cam, you got a score prediction on this one?
Well, the analytics thing, College Football Graphs has it 28-14. This might be the first one to 20 wins. In fact, I think the next 3 games for Texas, first one to 20 might win all 3. Give me Texas 27, Florida 12.
All right, we will look forward to seeing that. Look, if it's ugly, it's ugly. It's just this is the SEC. Win ugly and move on. That's all this is week to week. Cam, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Our thanks to Cameron Parker. Our thanks to Jimmy Stein. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Have a great day, everybody. Come on back and see us tomorrow. And hey, it's another big moment of Locked On. If you haven't seen it yet, catch the college football kickoff show every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. You got Gary Patterson, Jesse Holly, and Drake Toll taking you through all the weekend games across college football with our Locked On experts. Only a preview that Locked On can bring you. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. I'm Chris Gordy. It's been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.